Welcome back to another explainer. You know, you and I, we're literally made of stardust. But unlike stardust, you actually chose to click on this explainer today. And how exactly did that happen? Well, today we are looking at the ultimate origin story. Not just the origin of stars or planets, but the origin of choices themselves. We're going to explore an epic 13.8 billion year journey of cosmic and ethical evolution, all based on a fascinating paper titled The Expansion of Agency and Options, a big history framework for ethics. Get ready, because we're about to radically shift your perspective on what ethics actually is and where it truly comes from.
Okay, let's dive into this with a massive, kind of counterintuitive question. Did the universe invent ethics? Usually, when we think of morality, we picture ancient philosophers in togas arguing in a public square, or we just think of it as a purely human cultural tradition. But what if it's much bigger than that? What if ethics is actually a natural, predictable, evolutionary response to a universe that just keeps getting more and more complicated?
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to use what's called a big history framework. This basically means situating our very human moral concerns within the long, epic arc of cosmic, biological, and social evolution. Think of ethics not as some set of arbitrary rules or a fun intellectual game, but as a literal evolutionary toolkit. Much like opposable thumbs or binocular vision, ethics developed to help us manage an increasingly complex universe where our actions have very real, compounding consequences.
Let's lay out a stealth roadmap for where we're going. Think of this timeline as an escalation arc. We start 13.8 billion years ago with purely physical systems. Then we jump to living organisms around 3.8 billion years ago. We hit human societies roughly 300,000 years ago, and finally, we land right here in our present-day global civilization. At each massive step forward, the universe's option space, meaning the sheer number of possible actions available to a system, expands. It's almost like a video game map continuously unlocking vast new territories.
So, how exactly do we navigate this constantly expanding map? Well, we have a rule of three. Consider this our cheat code for understanding exactly why ethical systems emerge in the first place. It always happens when three distinct factors collide. First, increasing informational capacity, meaning a system gets better at processing data and predicting the future. Second, growing interdependence, meaning our actions start fundamentally colliding with and affecting each other. And third, rising potential impact, where our tools and technology literally amplify the consequences of our choices. Think about it. When you can predict a storm coming and you rely on your neighbors to survive it, and you have the physical tools to either build a shelter or steal someone else's, you desperately need rules. All right, let's rewind, all the way back to the very beginning, from physics to first choices. From the Big Bang to the formation of stars and early planets, the physical universe was incredibly violent, immensely complex, and entirely deterministic. In the early cosmos, physical matter had absolutely zero choice. A massive supernova doesn't, weigh its options before deciding to explode. Gravity doesn't think about pulling. It was a universe operating entirely on blind, unthinking autopilot. And this brilliantly illustrates a really profound shift in the universe's history. We go from a deterministic universe of unthinking physical laws, directly contrasting with the very first signs of life. Take a single bacterium. It can detect a chemical gradient in its environment and use a tiny biological motor to actively swim toward a source of sugar. It's making an implicit choice. We call this proto-agency. Now, sure, it isn't morality yet, but it is a monumental leap. For the very first time, the universe is exploring adaptive behavior. It's essentially the cosmos executing its very first if-then statement. Zooming further down our timeline, we hit this absolutely crucial threshold where biology finally meets behavior. This is where highly social mammals enter the scene. If you're a solitary predator, your survival depends mostly on your physical traits, like having sharp teeth or being really fast. But for a social mammal, your survival depends on navigating group politics, building trust, and coordinating actions. For the first time ever, we see sustained behavioral interdependence. You simply cannot survive without the group. Because of this, social mammals are constantly facing these super relatable, high-stakes struggles known as proto-ethical trade-offs. Imagine a wolf pack on a brutal winter hunt, or a primate troop deciding whether to share a limited food source. They're constantly calculating the profound tension between getting the biggest cut for themselves and making sure the pack actually survives the season. They're balancing immediate self-interest against long-term group stability, or risking their own personal safety to care for vulnerable offspring. These everyday social tensions act as the raw evolutionary scaffolding for what will eventually become our deeply held human moral intuitions, things like fairness, empathy, and reciprocity. Then, bam, a massive multiplier unlocks in early humans: symbolic cognition. This cognitive leap effectively birthed complex morality. We developed episodic foresight, which meant we could suddenly step out of the present moment and imagine a hypothetical tomorrow. We developed theory of mind, meaning we could accurately guess what our neighbor was thinking and feeling. Combined with complex recursive language, we could now transmit abstract information, debate what was right and wrong, and build on previous discoveries. The idea spread like wildfire. Collective learning was born, and our moral community exploded in size.
Now, this brings us to the dawn of the agricultural and civilizational era. As populations boomed and humans settled into bustling cities, our option space got vastly more complicated. The informal campfire rules and personal trust networks that worked great for small hunter-gatherer bands, they completely failed when dealing with thousands of strangers. To prevent total collapse, early societies had to invent formal institutions. We're talking written legal codes, standardized markets, administrative bureaucracies, all built to manage the overwhelming risks of massive, scaled-up human interaction.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how early societies actually managed this. To live in a stable civilization, we're constantly forced to make complex societal trade-offs. We trade a degree of individual autonomy for collective security. Think about something as simple as agreeing to stop your car at a red traffic light. You are sacrificing your immediate freedom to drive straight through in exchange for the collective security of ensuring we don't all crash in intersections. We're constantly balancing the aggressive push for rapid innovation against the stabilizing, cohesive force of tradition. These early legal and institutional frameworks were at their core large-scale ethical technologies designed to coordinate millions of strangers. Which brings us to our current reality, the modern ethical explosion. The combination of fossil fuels, rapid industrialization, and instantaneous global digital networks has created an unprecedented, planetary-scale explosion of choices. Our technological power now amplifies our actions to a terrifying degree. Today, a routine business decision made in a boardroom in one hemisphere can immediately alter a fragile ecosystem in another. Think about that number for a second. 13.8 billion years. For billions of years, cosmic and biological change was agonizingly slow. Then, in the blink of a cosmic eye, just a few brief, volatile decades of modern industrialization, humanity acquired sweeping geological power. This timeline beautifully captures the dangerous acceleration of our option space. We went from implicitly choosing which direction to swim in a primordial soup to having the literal capacity to alter the planet's atmosphere, its biosphere, and its ultimate future. So the crucial point is that our technological option space is expanding much, much faster than our cultural and governance frameworks can handle. We are facing severe modern vulnerabilities, catastrophic climate change impacts, cascading global financial crises, and the rapid, totally unintended consequences of digital networks. We have fundamentally outpaced our own rulebooks. Humanity is currently wielding 21st century planetary power using 18th century institutional hardware. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this dangerous acceleration brings us to our final challenge: navigating our cosmic future. Think of this as the ultimate boss fight of human evolution. We've reached the absolute highest level of our escalation arc. We're no longer just managing small tribes or passing laws for single nations. We must successfully manage infinite, interconnected, planetary-scale choices without inadvertently destroying the very Earth systems that keep our species alive. To survive this ultimate test, we have to perfectly align three expanding, incredibly complex ethical frontiers: intergenerational justice, AI decision authority, and planetary stewardship. And we can't treat these as isolated issues. If we fail at embedding ethics into artificial intelligence, our planetary stewardship fails. We have to thoughtfully master these multi-layered domains together so that our rapidly expanding technological capabilities don't permanently erode the long-term resilience of the planet itself. Let's delve a little deeper into the AI authority spectrum. Our relationship with artificial intelligence ranges from using it as simple decision support to keeping a human in the loop to human-on-the-loop oversight, all the way down to full delegation. As we increasingly hand over actual decision-making authority to autonomous systems, we are staring down a massive accountability gap. If an AI system is fully delegated to manage a city's power grid and a calculation error causes a deadly winter blackout, who exactly goes to jail? We must thoughtfully embed AI into our societies to align this unprecedented technological power with strict ethical accountability. The paper leaves us with a truly brilliant insight. Intergenerational justice reframes ethics as a dialogue across time. Because our modern footprint, things like highly radioactive nuclear waste or lingering greenhouse gases, will persist for centuries, our ethical frameworks must now stretch across centuries too. We are actively shaping the physical inheritance of unborn societies. We have a profound ethical obligation to maintain option value for them, meaning we must leave future generations with a thriving planet that actually gives them choices, rather than a depleted, burning world where their only remaining option is mere survival.
Which leaves us with one final, lingering question to ponder long after this explainer ends. What is our responsibility to the deep future? From floating stardust to single cells to social mammals to a hyper-connected global civilization, the universe's capacity for choice has grown exponentially. And with infinite choices comes the compounding, inescapable weight of responsibility. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.